Hi, everyone. Welcome. This is Tom Moran with the All Hazards Consortium. We will start our webinar in about 1 minute. We've got our panelists ready in queue, and we'll give another minute and we'll go ahead and start. Thank you for taking the time today. This is a very exciting opportunity for public-private partnerships, as well as a way to operationalize research and information quickly. So we're looking at several models here we'll get a chance to talk about. So if you stand by, we'll start in just about 30 seconds. Ollie or Nancy or Greg, if you can mute just your phone, we're getting some feedback here. Thank you. Okay, very good. Okay, welcome everyone. As people are logging in, we'll start in about 15 seconds. Okay. 3, 2, and 1. Okay, thank you everyone. Welcome to our briefing today on a new commercial routing assistance tool. Great technology, leveraging a vetted system of data acquisition and a massive community of people in state, industry, federal government, local government. We're very happy to be providing this brief. So with just some webinar administrative comments. First, the webinar is being conducted by the All Hazards Consortium, a nonprofit 501c3 formed in 2005 by multiple state emergency managers and homeland security directors. Its mission is really building public-private operational partnerships with industry and government at the state level. Heavy on the East Coast and the Eastern U.S., but when things get really bad like Harvey or Maria, we work with pretty much every state across the country in helping private sector fleet movement, resource information sharing, and so forth. And of course, this webinar is being provided in partnership with DHS CISA and Idaho National Labs. This webinar is being recorded and will be made available to all registrants and partners to post online as they see fit. If you object, please disconnect now. All the information we're going to discuss is open source, nothing proprietary or sensitive or secret, so no issues there. And this tool has been, and the process and partners have been through a rigorous DHS review and approval process for all of their policy and process requirements, and was officially approved for public release May 5th, 2020, and I believe DHS and others have issued press releases as well. All of you attendees on the call have come in as muted. If you have questions, please submit them through the text box or the chat box, and we'll try to get to those towards the end of it. And again, we want to thank you all for taking time to join us today. So our agenda today, we'll hear from multiple speakers. I wanted to make sure we covered a couple background issues as how we got here. A lot of you were maybe be surprised by how this thing happened, and I want to make sure everybody understands how we got here. This capability was created very quickly, 6 days, but it was many years of people working together that built the framework to share the information and leverage things quickly so the tool could be utilized immediately. So on the left of the screen, you'll see there's been a number of partners working together really since 2013 through the Multi-State Fleet Response Working Group, stood up after Sandy by the electric sector. It is a nationwide collection of public and private sector stakeholders that have been developing transportation information sharing products since 2013. And they've been working very closely with Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, US DOT, state DOTs, DHS Science and Technology, DHS CISA, FEMA, a number of them over the years. So there's been a lot of people whose brush has been on the canvas for a long time. Well, COVID struck, and that's what brought us together on this initial planning and problem solving, and it leverages a thing you're going to hear about called the SISE, which is a legal framework developed by the private sector underneath the All Hazards Consortium, designed to protect private sector information so they can share it with each other on a use case by use case basis and with states and the federal government. And the partnership there that brought the tool together was really Idaho National Labs and DHS CISA. The consortium and the SISE are handling the people, the requirements, the aggregation, the meeting, so forth. But the technology was really designed by INL, and you'll learn about that in just a minute. And of course, DHS CISA played a very important role on a number of fronts, which we'll get into in just a second. So I just wanted to make sure we talked about the background here and how we got here, because as we were talking, a lot of you may or may not understand what happened here. So what I'm going to talk to is this little drawing, and then we'll jump into our context. So on the left, you'll see information from 2013 to 2020. The consortium and the SISE have multiple work groups and committees that have been working on multiple use cases, primarily with industry and states, and focusing on emergency management and DOT related issues. And you can see the list of partners there. The I-95 Corridor Coalition, Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, US DOT, state DOTs, not all of them, but many of them on the East Coast, DHS CISA, Transportation Research, AASHTO, American Truck Association, along with FEMA, DHS, CISA, S&T, NASA, NOAA, USGS, and of course the electric sector, food, comms, transportation, fuel. All these folks have been working together over the years, and there's even a group that meets every Friday and has been doing so for 5 years that are really working on operational problem solving with states. So that's been going on ever since. Yeah, Greg?
This is Ollie. I'm not seeing the slides advance. I wonder if there we go.
Oh, there we go. Thank you. Thank you. So the left side is what's been going on for quite some time. And we even create a little video that'll explain this chalk talk better. But when COVID struck, the first thing the private sector needed was a way to aggregate vetted information. So by working with partners, dozens of them, there was a mechanism established on an ESRI platform to aggregate declarations, waivers, executive orders, transportation guidance, other guidance, curfews, closings, restrictions, a number of things. I think each state issued about 40 documents each, it seems, for COVID, which caused major commercial impacts on a number of fronts. So very quickly, working with IDO National Labs, INL came up with this idea. Let's take that data in the SISE and let's put it into a tool that can visualize it very quickly. And they did a fantastic job, developed the algorithm, and very quickly this app aggregates hundreds of documents in a second, and provides a daily, kind of multiple routes. You'll get a chance to see it in action. It really has been I think a tremendous thing for the private sector. It's updated daily by the SISE community. So every evening, all these new documents are read and fingered into the SISE, the tool that aggregates that and displays it very quickly. So the long-term vision here is to have the private sector sustain this over time. Nothing's going to survive alone with federal, grant money or things like that. We've learned that over the 15 years we've been around. So the consortium will work with private sector to do that. And they're already working on further uses for this capability in hurricane season, wildfires, earthquakes, and things like that. It really was designed to help the driver or the logistician get information quickly, remove the fear, and stay compliant with government regulations that had to be put in place to stop the spread of the virus. First up, after that, I wanted to make sure Nancy has been working with all of you. She knows most of you, I would think, Nancy, so I wanted to provide Nancy an opportunity to provide opening comments. So, Nancy, go ahead.
Hi, Tom. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much, Tom and Ollie and Greg, for working with me to put this on. You're right, Tom. It was a little bit of a surprise, but a good news story. The people that we have on the line that I invited, and they may have forwarded my invitation to others, so I can tell that there are some state folks out there. I did invite AASHTO and the Transportation Research Board, as well as reps from the Highway and Motor Carrier Council, which is part of the transportation sector under the National Infrastructure Protection Partnership Framework. So we have folks from DOT headquarters, state DOTs, industry, TSA, I mentioned the Transportation Research Board, and others, because I allowed people to go ahead and forward. So we're here to listen and understand the background of the tool and allow folks an opportunity to ask questions and see how we can contribute together to make this a very useful tool for everyone. So good job, and I'm going to turn it back over to you, Tom.
Hey, thanks, Nancy. Thanks, Tom. Thanks, Ollie. Greg McShane, can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah, Greg, loud and clear. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Hey, I just wanted to give a kind of a little bit of backstory on kind of where we were a number of years ago and kind of how we ended up where we are today. But I'm Greg McShane. I've been with CISA going on 14 years, more in the areas of technical facilities, supporting our CISA watch operations, both on the physical and cyber side. You know, it was about 3 years ago, CISA IOD, we started this effort. It's that public-private partnership with the All Hazards Consortium through the NIP Challenge, and really wanted to expand on some of the capabilities that All Hazards Consortium was working on. We expanded it to our partners with Idaho National Labs. They had a lot of technical capability that they've already been working on, and really mixed for the right recipe to kind of get us to where we are today. It's really that focus to solve operational use case problems during event response and recovery, building on after actions from a lot of the previous hurricanes, from Maria, Harvey, Sandy, specific use cases such as supply chain issues, lodging, pre-staging, fiber cuts, fuel availability and restoration, reentry, flooding, road obstructions, damage assessments, those types of use case approaches. And with the focus of use case approach, it's just like, how do we integrate and operational some of IOD's situation awareness and analytical tools, capabilities, and how do we improve on some of our information and data sharing? And how do we actually solve the problem? We've had a lot of success in certain areas and a lot of areas where they're just very high degree of difficulty to solve some of those operational challenges. Either we've defined the problem, but yet we don't have the data or the information to help solve that, or we just don't have the right people at the table to do that. With COVID-19, it really developed, we developed that commercial routing assistance application. It really set the stage. We had the right people at the table, the foresight, the advanced technology through the SRE hub, and the authoritative public data sources through national government associations and state council governments. In the beginning, we were sending out RFIs to some of our regional officers and protective security advisors to collect a lot of that state information, and it was very burdensome. And through some of the capabilities that the NGA was working with the SRE and the SRE hub, we were able to really minimize that heavy lift on the data side, and NGA was actually doing that for us through the SRE hub. We were able to feed that directly into our capability and tool, and it really set the stage up for a successful capability. We built the tool out in less than a week. It took about 2 weeks to get it cleared through our CISA leadership approval for rollout. And it's a tool. It's not just for COVID. COVID just presented the right opportunity to do this. It can be used for other events. We're coming up into a hurricane season, and we really wanted to leverage it during also steady state. It's a great tool capability as we find very simple, but yet again, we've had the right recipe for success. We're open to feedback, both good and constructive. How can we make this and build on the existing capability and expand on some of those state restrictions or information feeds that are going into the tool. And with that, let me hand it back over to Tom and Ollie Gagnon for a quick demo.
Okay. Very good. Thank you, Greg. Ollie, can you hear me okay?
I can.
Okay, so real quick, what Greg referenced was the COVID Information Hub on Esri. This is a public site. This has been collecting information from multiple sources. It's validated every evening. It maps. It's got data sets. It's a lot of information. How do you make this functional? So INL did such a great job And Ollie, I'm going to turn the screen over to you now, and you can provide just an overview and demonstration as you want. Give me 1 second. But the partnership that pulled this all off, as Greg said, was really kind of perfect timing. It really was a perfect storm. So no pun intended. So Ollie, I'll give you the screen. It's all yours.
All right, thank you, Tom, and thank you, Greg. And Nancy, it was good catching up with you, and I appreciate it. Again, Ollie Gagnon with Idaho National Lab. My role is the Chief Strategy Relation Manager to CISA. And this, I was mentioned by Greg and Tom, this tool was actually developed in about 6 days, built on existing data that's been built over a long period of time. Again, the role of Idaho National Lab is we are one of the Department of Energy labs. We are what we consider government-owned but contractor-operated. And really, you may think, what is a DOE lab supporting DHS? Well, since Homeland Security was stood up with the Homeland Security Act, in the act itself, it calls for DHS to utilize the DOE labs instead of developing their own labs. So we actually have long-term relationship with DHS, CISA, and their former as the National Protection Programs Directorate. And this is one of other many tools that we have developed capabilities over time. First, I'd like to, again, we built this over 6 days, and I'd like to point out our core development team, which is Tim Klett, Mary Klett, Michael Overton, and Rob Etzel, were really the key people that built this capability. What our role here is bridging that gap between the data source and CISA's role in rolling out something that will benefit the greater critical infrastructure community, and make sure we can operationalize the information to provide value. In this case with COVID-19, but it already has applications for other types of incidents and disasters. So looking at my screen, if those who have maybe had a chance to actually go into the tool and play around with it a little bit, but I'll give you kind of a quick overview of it. You can also, there's a demo already on the All Hazards Consortium site, and we'll be soon putting a training video, overview video on our site that you see here. So the site I'm on is cra.ino.gov, and this is the landing page, and what you are is in the overview screen, and basically you have 4 main areas besides the overview, which is the map route, the state information, detailed information, and summary information. This landing page kind of gives you how to use this website. Once you use it once, you'll see it's pretty easy to use. I do want to point out that this was built so it renders nicely on mobile devices, your iPhone, your Droid. It also obviously for desktop, and that was one of the user requirements, was to make sure that someone sitting in a dispatch center or an organization on a desktop, or someone sitting in a cab of a truck on their mobile device, such as an independent trucker, can use this and get the same type of information. So I'll move now to the map the route, and this is using the Bing mapping capability, and I'll just simply put in a route from Los Angeles to Philadelphia. Okay, you'll see once you map the route, it will give you based on the primary route, which is in the darker blue, and it will give you actually the alternate routes also. You'll notice if I were to change the route, say if I want to take the southern route, if you watch the information on our left, which is summary information, you'll see that it will change based on the route. This is kind of an overview snapshot of some of the things that might impact the movement along that particular route. If I go to the north route, you'll see the same thing happens. So I'll go back in to my center primary route that was initially given to me. You also have the capability to drag your route. If you wanted to drag your route, say, a little further north from the primary route, you can do that, and the information will update accordingly. You also have the ability to add destinations. So in this case, if you want to start in California, Los Angeles, but you had to stop in, say, Detroit, Michigan, before heading to Philadelphia, you can add those routes as part of that. So again, this is the first part of is mapping your route. Then you can go to the state information tab, which you see renders a different view, and essentially gives you your route. As you see, it's highlighted the route that was provided, In this mode, you can also change your route. So let's say that I wanted to actually take my route through Colorado, through Kansas instead of going through Texas and Oklahoma. I can do that, and the information will update. I'm going to get and put it back for my primary route. So you can change your route here to review the information. The main bits of information that you'll get are two types. First of all, you have the trucking and routing information, which is by default highlighted, but also government actions. And I think this is one of the values of the capabilities, that not only are you looking at things such as weight restrictions and CDL expirations or extensions, but maybe I also want to know that is there limitations on gathering? Do people have to wear face coverings? Is there a state emergency declaration in effect? You can select that information and tailor that the way you wish. So in this case, I'm just going to start with the truck routing information. And you do have a drop down. And you see all of them are defaulted, but let's say I don't want certain information such as testing restrictions. You can remove that and the information will update. In this case, I'm going to show you that I'm also going to add, since we are in a COVID-19 situation and in the future could be a hurricane situation, I'm going to add the government actions and turn off my trucking. And then now my drop down, I can start selecting things such as, is there emergency declaration? Is there a curfew in effect? Are they requiring cloth face coverings as part of that state restriction? I do want to point out that the information in this initial rollout is at state level data. Obviously, we already see the need in future versions where if I'm in Florida during a hurricane and I want to move from Miami to Pensacola, the county information and local information would be very valuable. That's not part of this version based on this immediate need to roll out this capability. So again, you can change your data sources. I'm going to go ahead and add back the truck routing so I have a little bit more information on my screen. In this particular screen, which again we're in the state information tab, you'll notice you'll get kind of a subway map that kind of shows you based on information I selected what potentially the restriction level is. That's just a quick graphic to show you that, but you can actually scroll down a little further and show based on those data sources what those are. Again, a snapshot to kind of give you that view. If you want to get further into the detailed information, you can click on a detailed information tab, and the same information that you just seen based on the route, and the route that you're seeing the state goes from the origination to the destination. We start in California, and we're heading to all the way further, through New Mexico, Pennsylvania, all those different states. So this is your detailed information tab. If you want to actually go to a source, there would be, if the source is available through a hyperlink, you can go ahead and click on that and it will take you to, in this case, the California DMV website, which was the data source. You also have the capability based on the information that's shown to export this in a spreadsheet format by using this functionality, export to CSV. So again, you can tailor the information based on what your needs are, based on your particular, your route and what you'd be interested in. And then the final tab shows you the summary information, and basically that detailed in more of a screenshot and summary format of each of these. And you can actually click on those and actually take you back to the state information. And now I'm only showing the SDLA closures. So again, very flexible. We think pretty user intuitive to be able to look at the information, and you're able to map the information and get that in a very quick format based on the information, as Tom pointed out, being updated on a daily basis. So with that, Tom, that's a very quick overview, but hopefully it's enough to drive any questions that may come from the group.
Okay. Ollie, can you hear me?
I can.
Okay, very good. Thank you. So you've seen kind of a demonstration of Rev 1. There's a lot of questions in the question area. Great questions, by the way. Ollie, some of these were, do you consider bridge information? Is that being considered now, or how would we integrate bridge, heights and things like that down the road? Maybe you can address that real quick.
Sure. I would put it this way: if there's a data source available, it can be integrated into this tool and visualized. So, bridges, maybe, highway closures. We've heard that before. We even heard about security. Are there any security issues with certain routes, which may be important for, say, a reentry? So we're getting a lot of different requirements and we love to get those requirements from the subject matter experts and really the members that's on the phone right now. But yes, if the bridge information is available, it can be tied to the SISE, and then it can be tied to this tool.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Jason Carnes asked, how does this tool complement or replace DOT Routing Assistance Hotline, which is typically stood up during natural disasters? Jason, thanks for the question. We hope to integrate that. That is a tremendous service. We've been using that. We actually worked with Alex Keenan and his team shortly after the 2017 hurricane season, and that has been a godsend. We hope to take that and integrate this. All this, we don't want to replace anything. We want to leverage everything. That's the mission the private sector's after with any type of tool. So they just don't know everything that's out there, but that's a great question. Another question that came up, where would I find hazardous materials, routes, restrictions, and designations? This would include tunnel and bridge restrictions, from Paul Baumgartner. Ali, any thoughts about that going forward?
Yeah, I think that's tied kind of the first one. I know having spent 14 years in DHS as a field person, that very interested in that type of information. Again, if we could, if it's available at the state level, that data source can be integrated and visualized as maybe a separate area. So you could have, conceptually, you can have the government actions, the truck routing, say the hazards implications, security implications. You could actually, start to link the data to this capability and then visualize that. And then based on your needs, you could tell that by, say, selecting what you're interested in. So again, I think it goes back to the core concept that if the data is available, it can be linked to the capability.
Great. Scott Ramming, sorry, Scott, if I mispronounced your name. Does or can the primary route be selected based on avoiding particular restrictions?
I do not believe so. I don't.
That's an interesting question. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the visual nature. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say, have some conversations with Tim Klett earlier, who's the primary developer, and we were talking about that when you first do the route. Maybe you have something that pops up, a very short story that tells you on this route you're going to need face covering. Your vehicle cannot exceed 90,000 pounds because of restrictions on a route. So it kind of gives you that snapshot, story. And then if you want to start digging further into the tool, and I think your point is that if you want to reverse engineer something where I want to take something out of the equation, you should be able to do that. Now, the challenge there would be, and our team's all about overcoming challenges, is how that would be reconciled with the Bing mapping application. But it's not something that could not be overcome. I've not seen the team fail on any of these.
Well, and I think you guys also attempted to do that already. If you look on the screen, you'll see down below kind of the swim lanes based on a specific restriction. That was kind of our first step at allowing a driver to say, based on a certain restriction on the left, what's the greenest route forward? Not perfect, but it's a start.
The
other
piece, Tom, when you start looking at other types of incidents, and the ones I used to deal a lot with the New Madrid earthquake scenario and done training all over the country with Cascadia and others. The earthquake, you're worried about the bridges going down. So that the question earlier about bridge status is very important because you want to be able to, have that calculated into your route.
Very good. Susan Ellis, thanks for the question. Is there an ability to get a step-by-step route rather than just a map, or maybe even in addition to the map?
Step by step. I'm not sure I understand the
turn. I think turn by turn.
Oh, I would say it's not available now, but could be.
Yeah. I don't think. I think.
Yeah, we're using the Bing mapping application. You can get the turn by turn.
Okay, very good. Eric Taylor, thank you for the question. Does the tool factor in highway construction projects? Great question.
Does not right now, but again,
okay.
If you can point to it, a data source that's updated, And I will say, the same response that we can map to or link to a data source. It can be visualized. The other thing I think the group be interested in before the question may come up is we really want to get down to where the information that you're looking at, like say right now, is actually time, date stamped on the most latest, because not all of it was updated last night. So we want to be able to provide that more, granular time, date stamp on the information. But again, something like road construction would be something that you want to calculate in even like a normal mapping application where it gives you your time for the route based on some of those restrictions that may already be inherent to that application.
Yeah. And just another comment for the group, where the private sector wants to see this is to have kind of two versions, a public version. Again, we just birthed a baby, right? So this is early stage, but what the private sector wants to do is to have a public version with public information like you see on any kind of tool like Waze like that. What they see for this tool is to share not normally shared information, meaning sensitive. And they want to be able to take some of their operational information and put it into here for operational use only and have that as a non-publicly available version. That's their whole point, is to share specific data that may not be publicly available, that they can get, DOT and approved people in to look at. So we have a sensitive framework to share information as well as a public. So we're not there yet, but that's where the private sector hopes this could go. Another question. Hang on a second, they're coming in pretty quick. This is currently available only for legal roads, correct? No OSOW? I'm not sure what OSOW means, Dan. Dan Mulder provided the question. I think the answer is yes. Legal roads that you guys map, right? I don't think we got every road.
Yeah, it's legal roads, but legal roads. But really, what it's doing, it's the road is contained in the state, so it's bringing up the state information.
Okay, very good. Sinclair Stoley, thank you for the question. How do we get in contact to get some of our state DOT data streams to you for possibly get added? Thank you, Sinclair. That's a great question. Who do they get in touch with? I guess, Greg, that's something we ought to talk about, because this group could be a really good committee to get brush on the canvas for that one. Any comments?
Yeah, Tom, that's a great question. That's a great question, Tom, because what we really would like to see is how can we best fit and complement this capability into other capabilities that DOT may have, FEMA may have, the NRCC, during an event and during steady state. I think that's a great way to position us into a win-win situation for sure.
Yeah, very good. Great. Jeff Purdy, thank you for the question. Does the route follow the national network for trucks?
The short answer is it follows the Bing route that's provided, because it's tied to the Bing mapping application.
Yeah, I'd like to learn more about.
Yeah, I would say there's really no limitation on if that's an option and the data is available. That can be built into the tool. So say you want an option of the routing, certain routes based on a data source, you could do that.
Okay, very good. Dan Mulder, great question. If the system can integrate with our state 511 system that has current system restrictions, who bears the cost of facilitating the state integration with the system? Great. Yes, great question. Ollie or Greg, you want to take a shot at that?
Yeah, I'll probably defer that to our tech team, but I would say that, well, Tom, let me ask you this. The data source that we have now, I mean, these were simply APIs, correct? Linkage. So I don't know, it may be a one-time setup as the data is updated.
Yeah.
So I think it's a matter of access and building the initial connection.
Yeah.
But once that's done, at least my understanding, there was no reoccurring cost to that.
Yeah. So Dan, let us ponder that one. That's a good one, because the whole idea of this is to create a framework that can be public and private investment. The private sector is not going to ask government to shoulder everything on this, right? They benefit from it, and they are helping design it. But Dan's asking a great question: is who's going to bear the cost for that? And that's something we need to look at, a business model that can support both. Tina Sanders asked a question, was truck configuration used for the routing? Curious if OS/OW 53-foot trailers taken into consideration, otherwise great info and info sharing. Was truck configuration taken in? I'm not sure that was, Ollie, but you would know.
No, just the basic ones that you see on there, as far as the overall weight, those type of,
Yep.
license extensions, CDL medical waivers. So, again,
Right.
if that's a data source that provides value, and I would say too about the business case, if it has national implications, that's going to be a strong business case. This question and the last question, as far as data sources.
So, yeah, and just a comment, I was fortunate enough to be invited to participate on a DOT working group. It was called the Emergency Route Working Group. It met a lot of people in trucking and AASHTO. It was basically an advisory group got together to advise DOT, to advise the president on some of this. And overweight, thank you everyone for your comments on oversized overweight. This was a big issue. And we will probably look at that in a next phase, because what we came out of that discussion that we had there was electric utilities, fully loaded trucks were definitely under what was told to us in the committee. I forget what it was, 85 or 90,000 pounds or something like that. So they were within the margin of error. But this tool right now has an overweight, and I forgot, Ollie, what the data was. It was like 90,000 pounds was the state national.
Yeah, please.
That may be, yeah. So, but we do need to pay attention to this going forward. Great questions. Thank you for the oversight of overweight issue. That's a big issue in recovery, I can tell you. Next from Dave Huft, AASHTO Freight Operations Working Group is interested in working with you. Thank you, Dave. Randy Hoyt, is truck parking availability information included? Boy, that was on the drawing board. That was one of the first things that came up, Randy, from the private sector. I don't know if it's in here now, but that's a fairly straightforward one to add. Ollie, comments from your perspective?
I would say that, based on the immediate need, the challenge of getting it out, the first version, that what we went with was the data sources that was the easiest to map out the gate. But that there's no limit on what you can do. The limit would be on how do you want to visualize this and provide so it's user friendly, and that's what our team specializes in.
Got it.
Hey Tom, let me add to that, because this was kind of in the early stages, we were just not only talking about parking, but hey, if a trucker stopped, where can he get something to eat? Where is the rest stop open, closed? Those types of things. Is there lodging available? Those food stops, and exactly those types of things. What do you need? It's all the dependencies and interdependencies regarding some of this capability.
Yeah. Very good. Susan Ellis, thanks for the question. I see the benefit for industry regarding information to support their dispatch. It is my understanding that we are looking to use this future for DOT hotline to provide CMV routing during an emergency event. Susan, let's circle back with you. Yes, the answer to that is we're in early stage. This was put together very quickly. We see, as does the private sector, sees tremendous potential to share public information, but more importantly, private information. People say, well, what information are you talking about? We're working through the SISE. We can protect data down to the individual looking at it and for how long they can look at it. So we give an example. Electric trucks are moving from Texas to Connecticut for a winter storm. They want states along the route to know they're coming and help them get through way stations and toll stations quickly. The challenge is the states don't know where those trucks are. The contractors in the electric sector track those vehicles. Well, the vehicle tracking data we could get and share that with state DOT or emergency management officials so they know 45 minutes before they hit the border, the states know. That's sensitive information, truck whereabouts. That's one example. Inventory of certain supplies. They know what's on board these things. They don't want to share that because of competitive interests or regulatory. This is where the private sector hopes for this to go, is not just to do public information, but private sensitive information where they can share amongst each other with state DOT officials who are vetted, right? So I hope that gives you an idea. Gino Kohler asked a question, made a comment, 80,000 pounds on 5 axles is legal. Electrical trucks. Okay, thank you. Yes, usually have 2. Thank you. Jeff Purdy, The national network has routes designated for trucks on 53-foot trailers up to 80,000 pounds. A national map is available. And he provided the link. Jeff, thank you very much. I will forward that over to you, Ollie. Yeah.
Sure.
I think it's safe to say we've just touched on the potential of the transportation industry and information, both within commercial and within state. The purpose for this call is in big ecosystems like federal government or private sector, there's no way you can keep everyone up to date on everything all the time. And so that's why this webinar, Nancy, Greg, Ollie, we all kind of felt, hey, we need to get everybody on the same page. So hopefully this webinar was a first step. It's not going to answer everything, but at least we will have something to go back to. This will be recorded. I think we've got the end of our questions, lots of questions. We tried to answer them all as we get them. So Nancy, let me do this. Let me go back and maybe provide some. If there aren't any other questions or comments, we can wrap it up.
That's fine, Tom. Go ahead.
Okay, and Nancy, any comments from you?
No, I would say, let's see, Tom. So this is Nancy Parmelo, Department of Homeland Security, the Cybersecurity and Infrastructure Security Agency. I forgot to introduce myself and say I handle the transportation sector in CISA. I would say based on the question, so number one, somehow we will get to those on this call, the remaining Q's and A's, Tom. This is sort of a question for you, and whatever answers we were not able to answer today. If people have any recommendations about wanting to have a further webinar or specialized focused meeting on this, I can certainly make the contact information available of me, Ollie, Greg, and Tom, and folks can reach you directly. Oh, somebody's emailing me. And if you think of something after this, go ahead and email us, and then Tom and his team will get the answers back to everybody. I'll huddle with Tom afterwards, Tom and Ollie and Greg, to figure out how to best do this. But otherwise, I just want to thank everybody for participating. I'm going to turn it back over to you, Tom, to kind of wrap it up.
Okay.
But
great.
We'll figure it out afterwards. Okay. Thank you.
Great. Thank
All
you,
right,
Nancy.
over to you, Tom.
Thank you, Nancy. Up on the screen is all of our contact information. I'm sure if you have questions afterwards, you can send them to the appropriate party. I do want to let you know we have two links there. One is a direct link to the INL tool. The second one is a YouTube video with a chalk talk of just me going over the crayon drawing that I did in the very beginning. We use those all the time because they're simple and effective, and hopefully it'll help you all. Greg or Ollie, any comments here before we close?
No, I'm just going to say.
No, just go ahead, Ollie.
Sorry, Greg. So yeah, I was going to say, Tom, that we have some of the development team, Tim Klett, on the call, and we'll get more refined answers to some of those questions that were provided, so we can get the questions, or we'll take a look at the recording and get some more, so we can get those out to Nancy and Greg.
Okay. Yeah. Very good.
No, Tom, I just want
Greg?
to say thank you to everybody. I just want to say thank you to everybody, and look forward to working with everybody on this. And how can we make this better? How can we make it work for you? And how can we integrate some of this capability into your tools?
Yeah.
Thanks.
Wonderful. So we did answer, or at least try to answer, every question that was typed in. If you have other ones, which you may, please forward them to the appropriate email that you see fit. And our hope here is to continue to evolve as we go into hurricane season and beyond. So we appreciate everybody's time and energy, and I think this will be a big canvas for a lot of brushes to contribute to. So the whole point of this is to create something both states and commercial entities can use to coordinate, and federal groups can use to coordinate together going forward and build on this capacity and capability in the future. So the idea is not to recreate something, is to leverage everything. That's the mission of the consortium's private sector body. So thank you all for attending, and have a great, safe week. This will conclude the webinar.
Tom, are you still on the line or?
Yes, I'm still on.
I'm still on here.
So has everybody else dropped off in the?
No, they're still live. Yeah, they're still on. Well, they're dropping off, but they're still on. They're all muted. So I'm saving the questions log. Okay, so we can keep that. We did get a chance to address all of them that were asked, but there's many that are not asked, as you know. So
there's one that came in to me. Hold on one second.
Okay.
This was TSA.
Okay.
Takes a second before it comes up here because I'm on wireless.
Okay. You know, there's still 13 people on. There's still 13 people on. Why don't I just unmute everybody? If you got a few more minutes.
Anybody?
Okay.
This is Nancy Carmen.
Okay, everybody's unmuted right now. So
maybe we should just mute them, Tom.
Okay, yeah, there's 12 people left on the phone. What I was trying to do is to go down. Jeff Purdy made a comment.
Thank you for calling the conference center. At any time during this message, please enter your passcode followed by.
All right, hang on. I'll.
Your passcode has been.
Okay. Jeff Purdy, can you hear us? Jeff? Okay, he might have hung up. Okay. Well, we can circle back. Everybody's muted now, so we can circle back. Somebody asked, can I have a copy of the questions? The answer is yes. Do we have a copy of the slides? Yes, it's in the recording. Okay, great feedback. Great feedback. So, okay,
so
I have saved the. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm going to copy and send you 2 trucking contacts that David Cooper at TSA sent me. He's the section chief for the highway and motor carrier mode. So I'll get that over to you. I'm sure people are going to write into me or somebody here, and they'll have ideas.
Okay.
But you did say AASHTO reached out to you.
Yeah.
Right? So
no, AASHTO has a great number of work groups, as does TRB. So I think we got great partners we can tap into based on the use cases or whatever. So okay. Well, listen, I'm going to go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I was going to say, Nancy, you had requested another seminar next week or webinar next week. Did you still want to do that as well?
Did I? Well.
Yeah, I was on the invite or the original ask for this session and maybe something next week. But if this covers it, then I think I'm good with that.
Oh no. Okay. Well, maybe I got confused. I mean, Tom's got 3 webinars, and I just signed up for those. So I wasn't asking for something separate. I just want to see what the feedback is. I'm going to send you these contacts that I got from TSA, and then once you bundle everything up, I can get it out to everybody. Or you can, I don't know, can you send it out to everybody that was on the that registered? I don't know how that works.
I can give you the files, Nancy, and then you can send out the links and files from one source. Okay.
Yeah, I can reply to all.
Let's do that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. I'm gonna